Hey guys, I need like 2 minutes and I'll be right back.
No. You already took your 2 minutes. No.
Yep.
I think he's gone.
All right. Well,
yeah,
that's all right.
All
We'll
right.
podcast without him.
Sorry, Craig's here. It's fine.
Yeah, Craig can fill in and do what Waples does, say nothing at all.
Yep.
That's
but he uses a lot of
never...
words to say it, though, so I'm not sure that we're going to replicate that.
I was hoping he was going to get all of his stories out in like the first 30 minutes, but now it's going to be like the first 32 minutes.
Oh my god.
The life we live. But hey, we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay. I'm joined with Dan and Christian and maybe Christopher if he's done doing what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Optional.
And on this podcast, we generally talk about tabletop role-playing games, mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but a lot of other stuff too. And Free RPG Day was 2 weeks ago. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it last time because we had an interview, which was nice.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about some of the free swag and awesome stuff that we picked up at Free RPG Day. And if you didn't get to participate this year, check it out next year. So who wants to start?
Christian, you had Dragonbane, didn't you?
I did. I don't want to talk about the whole thing. I'll talk about Dragonbane in whole. I did get one of the adventures with it, which is actually really quite good.
Okay.
We both, I mean, you and I, Dan, we both went to the same place. You know, we went to our local game store there that had it. Despite them being super cagey on the phone with you for some reason about whether they were going to have anything.
I still don't understand because I'm pretty sure the guy that was actually like walking us through like what we had to do in order to get the stuff was the guy I talked to who was being super cagey on the phone with me. It was weird. It was fine when we got there.
It was fine when we got there. Super easy. They had a little like what they call a quest card. It was basically just tasks to do in the store. And neither one of us had time on the day to actually sit down and play in any of the games, which is I think really the only thing we would have needed to like fill out the card.
Right. We got 5 of 6 things.
Yeah, just by showing up and shopping in the store and saying hey on their social media, you could get most of the things. So we were all able to pick out some stuff.
But did you have to actually do that stuff to get free swag?
You did.
No, you actually had to do like you would get at least one free swag literally just for showing up and grabbing a card.
Okay.
So I mean, like if that's all you wanted to do, that's all you had to do. But like the other stuff was super easy. Literally check in on their Discord and say, "Hello, I am at Free RPG Day at Level Up Games in Duluth," and that's it. You get another free swag, and every time you did it, you get a stamp. I mean, it took us 10 minutes to solve. We also had to solve a riddle, and spend like Chris said, spend $30 in the store, which I was going to anyway, so long as they weren't douchey, and they weren't. So you know,
Yep,
that was fine.
Yep.
And also they had 25% off of all their gaming stuff too. So. I also
nice.
I managed to pick up the full core set of Daggerheart for a very cheap price.
Which we will have to talk about at some point soon on this podcast. But
Yep. But yeah, so I picked up a few things. I got demos for the thing I was really there to that I wanted to make sure I got was the Castle White Rock preview adventure for DCC. And then I wanted the Dragonbane adventure, Magistrate's Gambit.
Yep.
And I managed to get both of those. And so everything else I picked up was just kind of bonus. I picked up Chaosium's basic roleplay quick start so I could investigate that. I got a demo for, which is a demo of the system and like a little small, really short adventure for Legend of the Mist, which is from Son of Oak Games, and it is the same thing that their City of Mist and Otherscape role-playing games, same kind of system that it runs off of. It feels very inspired by Powered by the Apocalypse. It is not a Powered by the Apocalypse game, but it is very similar to that. So if you have played those type of games, you'll feel it'll be easier to get into this. It took me a little bit to wrap my head around the system because I've only played a couple of Powered by the Apocalypse games, and because I don't care for the system over much. This is a little bit different. It's I think it's a little bit better as a system, but it's still very story game, still very narrative heavy.
Yep.
Then I picked up a couple of little 5e adventures just because from third parties because I wanted to check out the stuff they had done. I picked up one from Kobold Press.
Always
And,
good stuff.
Usually good stuff, yeah. The adventure is good. Like, it's fun adventure, a neat little thing. It does, just some of the stuff reminds me of why I'm moving away from 5e, though, even though it's using their kind of 5e variant, Tales of the Valiant. But you look at, like, one of the, I forget what they call it. It's this equivalent of sort of like a background. It's a heritage, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
They have ancestry and heritage, but one of them is called Exalted. And it just means because you picked up this background trait, all fiends always have disadvantage on all attacks against you.
Oh my goodness. Permanent
I was
protection
just
from evil.
like-
Nice.
Yeah, I was just like, what?
Yeah, that seems a lot good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the adventure overall, I mean, for a 5e adventure, it is definitely a very 5e high fantasy adventure, but it's pretty good. So yeah, I got the stuff I wanted. So I was quite happy with Free RPG Day at our store.
Yeah, I managed to get the Castle White Rock, which is the only thing I really wanted. And I did also get the Magistrate's Gambit for Dragonbane, which you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Also picked up a couple of Starfinder things because apparently 2nd edition Starfinder is coming out here relatively soon. So they released 2nd edition Starfinder stuff. There's a couple of little modules, Battle for Nova Rush and Second Contact. I never got to play 1st edition Starfinder. Basically, it's just Pathfinder in space.
Yep.
So Starfinder 2nd edition is almost certainly Pathfinder 2nd edition in space, which makes me very, very happy because in my personal opinion, Pathfinder is 2nd edition is just better than D&D. It uses what D&D already does, and it allows you to actually build better characters. So
Combat simulator.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it's definitely a combat simulator, which maybe if Waples ever shows back up, we'll get to talk about at some point.
I mean, it's move on without him.
Yeah, maybe
No,
so.
I'm back.
Well, oh my god!
Oh, there he is. There he is.
How long have you been here?
I left the Castle White Rock, the DCC adventure, to you if you wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Honestly, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about in it. It is just an adventure module for Dungeon Crawl Classics. It does have one of my favorite type of enemies, moth people. So there's that. I'm not going to give you any more spoilers because that's more than enough already. But it is sort of I think it's a level 1, but it might be level 0. Pretty sure it's level 1 adventure though. It's sort of a precursor to their Castle White Rock mega dungeon that's coming out sometime later this year on Kickstarter or Backer Kit or wherever they do it at.
Yeah, I picked up the 5e copy of it, and it's level 1 to 2 adventure for 5e. So I imagine it's level 0 to 2 for DCC.
It may be 0 to 1. Yeah, because DCC only goes up to 10th level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at there's a little conversion chart in the beginning of the book. It says level 1 to 2 adventure, DCC level range for low is 0 to 2. Low for 5e is 1 to 4. So I guess it'd probably be 0 to 1.
Yeah, it says low adventures. It's saying yeah, I think it's for first level DCC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your introduction to this mega dungeon.
Yeah, and you can use it outside of the mega dungeon. If you don't buy that, it's still a perfectly fine module that you can slot into your DCC campaigns just fine.
And I will say I definitely love Goodman Games, the fact that they put a little code at the very beginning of it where you can download your free PDF of Dying of Light of Castle White Rock. So,
yeah, every company needs to be doing that, but
they really should.
Yeah. Goodman Games is very good about doing it. Like every product of theirs I buy has that.
Yeah.
I also picked up a couple of other little zines on Free RPG Day. I got level 1, the Free RPG Day Indie RPG Anthology, and I got volumes 5 and 6. So I'm guessing there's 4 that I have never seen. They're basically just a bunch of little adventures or mini games that you can play. Most of them. Did you guys ever play Fiasco, or are you familiar with Fiasco?
Yes,
I am.
Okay, a lot of the games.
It's a good party game.
Yeah, a lot of the games that are in these are like Fiasco. It's more storytelling, and
Mhm.
maybe you get a couple of dice rolls throughout the entirety of the game that could alter something, but it's very just role play narration. I've played Fiasco a couple of times. It's a lot of fun for an evening. You can kill a few hours with it.
Yeah.
But that's the majority of what's in here. There was one thing I did want to talk briefly about that I did find in here that is not that though. It's a couple of pages called Pony Hawk's Pro Canter 3. It's a yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. An open source system neutral rule set for doing sick tricks on mounts.
All right, I'm into this.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in these. It's like 4 pages, so it's really not a hell of a lot, but it gives you sort of system neutral ways to do tricks on your mount. If your mount's a horse, cool. If your mount's a motorcycle, cool. If it's a skateboard, cool. Yeah, whatever you want. Whatever you want to. Yeah, if it's a chocobo, that's perfectly fine. It actually, you can actually try to pull off tricks and get combination scores in the game. And it has like rules for pulling off air tricks such as ollie, the kick flip, the 720, all the shit straight out of Tony Hawk.
Mhm.
They even had 4 NPCs in here. Two of they're obviously related on real life skaters. There's Pony Hawk, there's Bob Spurnquist, and there's 2 others that I couldn't figure out who they are, but there's got to be skaters. Yeshi Khan and Saddle Hawkins. But I'm not. I know a good bit about skateboarding. I actually do still watch it, so this was right up my alley when I saw this.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt.
Yeah,
Where the
you've never.
fuck
I
do
know
you
you've.
watch skateboarding at right now? Do you go to the park? You're an old ass man. Go to the park and watch the kids grind rails or whatever.
So I pull up my YouTube right now, and at the top of my YouTube is Rivian's Men's Skateboard Vert Full Competition X Games Salt Lake City 2025, which was this
The
weekend.
X Games don't exist anymore.
Okay, it's bigger than ever, but
Uh huh. All right.
Whatever,
this
dude.
this is not a skateboarding podcast, bruh. This is a tabletop role playing games. So
Is it
that's
though?
what. Yeah. So that's what I
Actually,
got.
oddly enough, yesterday I was kind of scrolling through my YouTube feed, and what I got was rollerblading competition championship highlights, and I was like, "Fucking rollerblading."
Yeah, they don't do that at X
Derby?
Games. Roller Derby, man, I wish Roller Derby would come back. I grew up watching that shit. Anyway,
Pretty sure it still does actually happen. At least there's a bunch of roller derby leagues in Atlanta.
yeah, I know it's still around. It's just I'm sure it's like skateboarding. I'm sure if I Googled it and looked for it, I could find a consistent league that I could watch online, but it's just not what it was back in the day. So, Dan, what all did you get?
I picked up a lot of what Christian did. I picked up Castle White Rock. I picked up the Dragonbane module, and I also picked up basic role-playing Universal Game Engine. And being a kid that grew up on a D100 system called Rollmaster, this is very familiar to me. And man, I don't miss this. The fact that this is the 50th anniversary of Chaosium. They're like, hey, yeah, this is our totally like a revised edition of the stuff that powers your most favorite games. Call of Cthulhu and Rune Quest and blah blah blah. And I'm like, these are not my favorite games. And in fact, I'm looking through this and I found the character sheet in the back. I think Christian pointed it out to me. Man, am I not missing this? Like, there's so many skills available. And like the D100s for resistance and the completely different ways of handling missile weapons and melee weapons and initiative. And I'm like, it's clean compared to like what they had in the 80s, but this is not what I'm looking for. And I've read through it as much as I'm going to, and I think I'm going to put it down. Sorry,
Yeah.
Chaosium. This belongs in the 80s. It belongs in a museum.
I miss a lot of skills. I really loved like skill charts and things like that, or just having access to a lot of skills as they were. But yeah, when you start having separate rules for initiative is when it complicates things too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the little mini module that's in here and the sample characters are fine. And they have like different links to Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, and Pendragon. And I'm sure I can tell the writing for this is much like World of Darkness. More on that later. It's fantastic, but the system is archaic, annoyingly archaic. But I also picked up, like I said, Castle White Rock. I picked up Daggerheart. I have not had a chance to really go through Daggerheart, so I can't really speak to that yet. But I also picked up Root, the role-playing game. And if you're familiar with the board game, it is in fact based on the board game. So you get to play cute little forest creatures that are busy trying to kill each other to do a thing. So you get to either play one of different factions. The factions are the Eerie Dynasty, so you look like a bunch of eagles, the Corvid Conspiracy, a bunch of ravens, or the Lizard Cult, which guys are lizards wearing robes, holding skulls and shit.
Nice.
Always spreading the great message of the great dragon. And yeah, you guys are definitely competing for X, Y, and Z. And I guess you go through here. It's a cute little adventure that's in here. The different places, the names are great. The Lost Tail Bakery, the Bright Gleam Harbor, Davin's Salon, and the Osprey household.
Nice.
And the character sheets are very simple. I mean, at least as simple as the board game is. I mean, you can't handle a board game, you probably shouldn't play this game. But I mean, they're one page each. You've got Nimble the Thief, who is a raccoon. You've got Saga the Chronicler, which seems to be some sort of a cute little chipmunk. You got a squirrel, Lucasta the Raconteur, Kylie the Tinkerer, looks like a woodchuck, and Lelina the Arbiter, who is definitely a mole. So it looks cute. What's great is with this is that you can definitely play the entire thing with just this book. I mean, this little free RPG Day booklet. It has an adventure that's probably 1 or 2 sessions. It has pre-made characters, 6 of them, and it has all the basics of what you need to play. It seems very simple. So I got that, and what else did I get? Oh yeah, just the Chaosium thing. But yeah, the free RPG Day was fun. It was interesting that this game store was hosting basically a mini con. So I got there like 30 minutes earlier than they opened, at least what they said they opened. And there's a ton of cars in the parking lot. I had to park way, way, way in the back, and there's a ton of people going in and out. I'm like, are they open? It's like, oh no, it's just DMs setting up and people checking in for games starting at 11. Like, oh. And we finally got in there, and Christian got there with the son. We walk in, and there's a huge line, like we're at a convention, like people waiting to check in for games. And this game store is admittedly enormous. It's the biggest game store I've ever actually been in, because it takes up like probably a quarter of a shopping mall. It's like Gamer Mall. It's filled with card games and board games and tabletop and so on. But they had like, I don't know, a dozen tables set up, like very large tables, DMs setting up for games all day. So maybe next year we'll actually play. We'll see.
Yeah, they've got 2 whole sections where they normally are set up for like RPG, and then like the other section, like where the free RPG stuff is normally like their kind of wargaming space. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Now that you guys have talked about your shitty experiences, let me tell you about the amazing experience that I had.
Yeah.
It's all about me, guys. Me.
This is why you go last.
Well, I had to take care of something real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, it happens. So let's see. Where do I start? Our free RPG Day was going to start at 12. I was running a little late, and I got there like around 11, but I had stayed the night before to basically set everything up. I cleaned out the D&D room. I got it all decorated up. I kind of basically, the D&D room is like this little side room that they have at Synergy. where there is like a game table and all the D&D books and whatnot. And that's usually where like the private groups go to kind of like play games and more peace and quiet, like the board gamers, because the main floor is mostly Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or One Piece or whatever trading card game is hyped for that day. So I had to basically kind of go through and clean up the room from the Final Fantasy pre-release that we had at Synergy just a couple like weekends before. And so I left most of the decorations that they had up because the person who set up the decorations for Final Fantasy didn't know anything about Final Fantasy. So all they did is basically put up a bunch of like makeshift potions, like healing potions and mana potions, and hung a couple pictures of dragons up on the wall, and also basically put up like rain clouds because they were told that the main character of Final Fantasy is a guy named Cloud.
Oh,
so they had literal clouds and fluffy cotton ball clouds all over the room. And when I saw that, I was like, what the fuck is this? And they go, oh, I did that. It's because Cloud. And I was like, listen, next time you have to decorate anything Final Fantasy, you need to come to me first. So I left most of it up.
Did this person know that the internet existed? Like,
yes.
Okay, I'm just checking because like at 30 seconds on the internet, you can tell that Cloud's got a big old Buster Sword, what he looks like with the spiky hair, everything.
Well, good thing they didn't hear about Storm.
One thing they did actually give away is they actually had custom Final Fantasy swords made for the event. So if you're at the pre-release, they gave you like little foam laser cutout swords. So that was part of what they also did. So they did have some of that, but they're just like, that's all I knew. I just knew Cloud. I was like, yeah, you go. So that basically, I left all that stuff up. I got everything prepped, and when I got there, like just at 11, there were already like 10 people waiting to get into the room to basically grab stuff. And that's what I was worried about. I was worried about there'd be a lot of people that were just there early to grab the free stuff, and they would grab it all and leave. And that's essentially kind of what happened. All the really cool stuff was pretty much gone within the first maybe hour or two. But a lot of that was because the really cool stuff, they only gave like 1 or 2 copies of that stuff out. So each company that participates in Free RPG Day has to supply their own materials and their own books to the group that sets it up. So Mophidius sent out 2 copies of their Fallout starter, the Star Trek starter, and another one of their games. I think an in-house game of theirs. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So there's only 2 copies of those. So I was like, if someone wants to come in and play these things are going to be gone almost immediately. And there were a couple other copies, like you said, mentioned the Dragonbane and the Root and whatnot. Those had like 10 copies available for everybody. That was just 1 box. You can buy multiple boxes, but we've never had a huge turnout. We've always had extra stuff. I can say with, great enthusiasm that this time we had nothing left. Everything was gone. So I'm really happy about that. So the initial group kind of comes in. A couple people kind of grab a couple things, but the 2 guys there kind of like grab pretty much one of everything, except for the secret stash that I had, which I'll explain in a little bit. So they kind of grabbed a little bit of everything. I actually found out later during the panel that one of the guys couldn't make it there that early, and those were his 2 friends. So they grabbed a bunch of stuff for him, the guy that showed up to the panel, and for their kind of like other groups that couldn't make it there that day. So, what I was initially kind of like grumbling about in the back of my head turned out to actually be relatively safe. And that's great. He actually listened to the podcast. So shout out to you. Hope you guys enjoy playing those. Let me know what you like, and we'll talk about that more. So it kind of went well. There were a lot of people coming out. We were able to run 4 games in the store, which is a lot. We had one guy came out and ran his own game that he calls Goblin Game. which is like a D12 based narrative system. I got a copy of the rules, and he's sending me a PDF so we can actually like review it in detail and have him on the podcast. And we ran 2 5e games and I believe 2 more. One 5e game and ran 2 Shadow Dark games back to back. And everyone that I know had a lot of fun. We sold a lot of stuff. I know a lot of books were kind of flying off the shelf. I actually had to go back and restock all the D&D books in the store midway through the day because they were selling them. Yeah. A lot of other stuff, materials. I kind of talked to the store owners like, hey, let people roll to get a discount with a D20, and they already had that system in place. So people were able to do that. You basically roll D20, and depending on the range you get, you got a increasingly better amount, like up to 20%. And then also, like if someone spent over $100, they could roll at advantage. So a lot of people are getting a lot of discounts, and I actually gave away a couple free books as well too. The store owner was like, just grab stuff off the shelf and give it to people. I was like, all right, bet. So I did that and gave away a couple books.
Free swag.
And well, there wasn't much swag in the box this year, which is kind of disappointing. But you know, the Emperor miniatures that they had, like from Baldur's Gate 3, the Emperor, the Mind Flayer. We got that whole bag, and we actually had the guy from our Games Workshop, like Warhammer 40K store, Heroes and Champions. He came out and did painting for everybody. So a bunch of people painted their own variations of the Emperor. He painted a really cool one that had like a almost like turquoise skin to it. It looked really cool. But he was painting stuff, and I got one for you, Dan, since I know you didn't get one.
Yeah, that essentially, it was hinted that basically we had to stick around to play a 4-hour game, and maybe we could get one. And it's like, yeah, I can't. But thanks.
So that what your store did was kind of a neat idea. You know, force people to participate, and you get free stuff. Mm-hmm. For this year, they actually had something like that built in, which I'm surprised your store didn't do. You had to kind of go around and scan QR codes. They called it a dungeon crawl, QWARL. And
this was something built in from the Free RPG Day people?
Yeah, for Free RPG Day, yeah. Okay. And essentially, me as the organizer had to kind of go through and set these things up at different parts of the store. Mm-hmm. And then, depending on what people did, you know, they could scan one of 2 QR codes and send them to different places. So that was a lot of fun to set up, and people were kind of walking around the store trying to find those and everything. Okay. So that was interesting and entertaining. But yeah, like we gave away a lot of stuff, and I was able to have my panel. And I think we'll talk about a panel for a little bit because there were a couple of questions from some players that they're asking for you guys, because that's what the whole premise of the panel was. I would ask you the burning questions from our audience at large. So I'm glad you listened to it, Dan, and actually wrote down what the questions were, because I didn't even do that.
Fine.
I just remember a couple of the questions. One interesting thing that did happen was we had this older player. I think she plays World of Darkness. Her name was Rose, and she came out just to kind of play games and just like meet the community and see who were playing Dungeons and Dragons, you know, because grumpily, I guess she doesn't like Dungeons and Dragons. And so while she was in there in the store, some other lady came in and she wanted to play the Star Trek game. And I was like, okay. So what I had done initially was I basically kept a copy of everything off to the side, mostly because, like, you know, the Fallout stuff and the Star Trek stuff, there's only one copy of those. But I knew that like Root would go fast and a couple other things would go fast as well too. So I wanted to have them on hand for someone that came in and wanted to actually play those in the store. So this lady showed up, said she wanted to play Star Trek. Star Trek was already gone, the copy that I left out there. So I grabbed the copy that I had set aside, gave it to her, and said, this is the copy for people to play Star Trek. This is yours. Unfortunately, I don't know how to play this system, but Rose spoke up and said, I do. So they actually sat down at the table and played just an, ad hoc version of the Star Trek game from Ophidius. And the girl's like, I really like this. Can I buy this whole game in the store? And I was like, unfortunately not. We don't have that, but you can go to the Ophidius website and pick it up. And so that was very interesting to see like the community actually come together and actually play the game that they wanted to play. I really did enjoy that happened.
I mean, that's kind of what it's about. Just people getting together, playing, and having fun.
Yeah, that definitely is what it was about. Like I said, everything went down great. I think I made some money for the store, and I think that we got to play a lot of really good games, and people want to play Shadow Dark more. So that's that. That's pretty good.
Excellent.
I at least now I have a good idea of what people want for the store owner to buy, because that's always been his question to me. Is like, what do they want to buy that I don't have? Dragonbane was a big one. Shadow Dark was a big one. And some of the Ophidius stuff was also a big ask for in the store. No one asked to buy Root though. But the Legends of Avantis, whatever they are, they're definitely making that super popular. So more power to them, I guess. Make your millions of dollars playing Root. I don't care. Not that I'm jealous about that at all.
Not bitter.
No, not at all.
No.
Just a little grumpy.
Yeah, just a little grumpy.
Since you talked about
do we want to ask questions? Do we want to?
Yeah, so the panel went off pretty well. I got my player Dimitri to come out and actually like be the panelist for me, and he said that he would come out and help me. He just didn't know when or where, and so like I texted him an hour before, and it's like, "Hey, the panel starts in an hour. I need you out here." And he's like, "All right," and then he showed up, and I think right before I started recording it, and maybe we can release the recording as like a bonus podcast episode or something, or at least put it on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
But he basically showed up and we started. He had no prep time. So I feel like it did a really good job kind of leading me through the questions. And I just took questions from the audience and kind of answered the questions that they had. And Dan, you said you listened to it and you enjoyed it. So what were some of the big questions or takeaways you got from it?
I wrote down 7 questions. I mean, you went off on a tangent on a bunch of them.
I mean, that's what I did.
I mean, Chris on a tangent? No.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. So the first one is, how much time do you take to prep? And you, of course, went through the fact that you, other than in store, you also do online work, and how it is a whole lot of extra time to prep for online play, because you're kind of limited on what you can do if the party decides, oh, I'm going to just make an open world out of this and do whatever I want to do, unless you have like the entire world already plotted out, and maps for everything for all the encounters, and tokens for everything for all the encounters, etc., and so on. And yeah, I'm with you on that. I would much rather, and I think most people would much rather, just game in person. And that's part of the reason why, as far as at least being a DM, it requires exponentially more prep time. Like, for my game that I'm about to finish up, 100 sessions, so, 3 to 5 hours each. Maybe we played twice in person. But the rest of them are all online. Like, I probably have spent 12 hours per game session preparing for it, because I don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, since it's taken so long, they're so beyond the level of what the by the book module is, that I've completely had to rewrite every single encounter. It doesn't help that I also have a party that is twice the size of your standard adventuring party from D&D. But yeah, it's time consuming, and which is part of the reason why I don't like it. More power to the people who have that kind of time and feel like they have that kind of time. But something you said also was very interesting, is that because you have to over prepare so much for a game, if party decides to go in a completely different direction, it's likely you already have an encounter made for that.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's a complete loss. Usually, there's
Yeah, I would
definitely
say
sometimes that it is, but
so. Like, I had my stream yesterday, and just as an example for that, I had my stream yesterday. I spent the majority of the day prepping the maps and doing more social, like token management than anything else for a VTT. I got the map up and going pretty quickly, and I already had the set up idea that they're going to go to the Yawning Portal. They're going to talk to Mert. Mert's going to recruit them and send them out to an ancient statue.
Mert, the money lender.
Yeah, right. So I prepped all that, and they got like halfway through the statue. So that's already taken the load off of next week. Half the statue's already done. But one benefit I do want to make clear with the VTT, there is a lot of front end load work for it. But once you have a good VTT set up, like especially for like me with Foundry, like once I get those tokens in there, and they're fairly easy to set up, they're just there now. So I can, as long as I have the map set up ahead of time, it's not like I'm losing that setup. So like my Waterdeep Foundry folder is just exploding in content that I can kind of really bounce around anywhere that I want, as long as it's Waterdeep related. My Strahd VTT has Strahd every single year. I have to do zero prep for that other than play with the tarot cards. You know, the map is just already there, ready to go. So I do like that aspect of VTT quite a lot. A lot of front end prep time, but I think it makes up for it in the long run.
Maybe if you're in a circumstance where you're running something that's a pre-written module by someone else, where all the like map work and all that stuff is already done, so you can import that kind of a lot of the stuff. If you're running your own homebrew stuff,
well, I mean, like even with your own homebrew stuff, if you have your generic, folded out maps that you would use at home, your Crossroads encounter, your map, battle maps that you have, you put those into the VTT once and they're there forever. So every time you would need to pull out the campsite in the forest is still there, no matter how many times you need it.
For some things, but like when I'm probably not going to run my party, especially since I tend to have lots of the same players. Like if I've used a dungeon map, I'm not going to use that same map with those guys again.
Whoa. Pump your brakes there, Christian. I feel
wow.
I feel like in person, you and Rob definitely traded maps and reused the same map at least 6 times.
That definitely became a thing, especially once we realized we were doing it. Yeah, vis-a-vis on a battle map. Yeah,
we would alternate playing. We knew one person that had a really great gaming table in his basement, and it had basically 2 large battle mats set up in sort of an inset area. And we had 2 friends, Christian and our buddy Rob, that were running games, one on Sunday, one on I think on Friday or something like that. Or I think you're running Birthright or Shadowrun. It didn't matter what the other person was running. Like it could be D&D or Shadowrun, and like a demolished car would suddenly, with the strike of a vis-a-vis, be a wagon in the middle of the road, and the next week, like that wagon would just get smeared out, and it's just a blood stain, and like you're trying to solve what's happened here, and like definitely reusing. I don't think our gaming group would give a shit. You could rotate the same map and be like, you're approaching this same wilderness encounter from a different direction.
For some, like certain, like he said, like crossroads, campsites, forest paths, that kind of stuff, I don't mind. For like a dungeon crawl, I wouldn't want to use the same one.
So,
now that it was funny because I drew on the map for part of a scene I was setting up for you guys, and then I noticed that when I came back the next Sunday, that it had been added to. Like I had put it under the other map, but I guess it had come out. I guess I see that Rob had used both maps. It had just been added to. He just used what I did, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna roll with that.
and actually, to that point, like you can very easily have like your just like say generic stone tile map and you could have your tokens that are actually like what you would use to build out the map in reality, so you just like have to build like, okay, this is your grid square, your 5x5 stone room, and you see an alchemist table, and you just drag that token over and there's your alchemist table. So
yeah,
again,
I mean, what you're saying is true. Like whenever I first started my game, I did a mountain of prep work. I gathered like all the tokens I thought I might need, as far as like room decoration and shit like that. And I stopped doing it eventually and just started downloading free, either free maps or Patreon based maps that looked way better than anything I can just whip out, because I got tired of doing it, to be honest. But like, you're right. I mean, you front load all that stuff, but by the same token, if I'm playing at my house with all of my gaming shit in my basement, there is not, an encounter that I can think of that I don't have a readily available miniature or piece of terrain I can throw down.
yeah.
But with that same token, like to go back to Christian's point of the vis-a-vis on a Chessex battle map, like those are the days. Like literally, I'm designing the map because they decided to go explore a ruin that I didn't expect them to explore. I'm designing the map in front of them on the battle map, or maybe I have just a shitty sketch in my notebook. I'm like, okay, yeah. So yeah, go around the corner and yeah. Christian, roll me a d20. Okay. Oh yeah, there's 3 ogres around the corner. So things, while they're fighting the ogres, I'm thinking up the next encounter, where the fuck I'm leading them.
But you can
can't
still
do that on a. You can't really do that on a VTT. You can't.
No, you can. You can easily do that in Foundry.
No.
So Foundry
you definitely can't do that on fucking Roll20. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, you can't do it in Roll20 for sure. But in Foundry, you have your base, your generic first like scene that they give you, which is just an empty grid. And you have enough painting tools where you could basically just pull out the marker set and draw what you want on the screen. Okay.
I'm gonna pause you right there, because drawing with a mouse on a screen is not the same as just pulling out a pen and drawing on a piece of paper or on a battle map. And you can say, well, you could pull out like an Apple Pencil and draw on
No, I was just going to say with the mouse.
Like
for me, it looks exactly the same. It's terrible on both sides.
Or is it the same with, especially because we tend to run larger groups, and so I know for the stuff I run, almost all the monsters I run are custom. I'm not using book monsters, so that means
I don't use the VTT for monster, handling. I do that separately or on paper.
Yeah, you use D&D, but still, I mean that means I have to have stuff prepped for that. It's it's just everything I have to do. If I'm going to use dynamic lighting, like that takes forever to set up.
Oh yeah,
who uses dynamic lighting? What kind of? You think I'm made of time? No.
Okay. Anyway,
actually,
let's move on from this.
Foundry handles dynamic lighting all by itself. There's like cute little interactive menu, and it handles it automatically. So
only if the map is set up to
Foundry.
For it.
So obviously, hold on a second.
Question 2.
No, hold on. No.
Oh, God damn it.
First off, Jay hasn't weighed in on his prep time, and 2, I'm just going to say there is what is it? I've spent so much money on Roll20, so to basically quote unquote save me time to not have to actually put these monsters in there and find tokens for them and shit like that. That swapping to Foundry is like throwing $500 down the toilet, and I'm not going to do that. But I will say, when I'm done with my D&D game, going to cancel my subscription to Roll20 because I'm not running any more fucking online Roll20 D&D games. But I'm also not just going to go start throwing money at another VTT.
I'm sorry, you chose the inferior product.
That was the product available to me at the time in the middle of COVID when we had to start running games. So
I think Foundry costs like $20.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Roll20 was free. Like when I ran online very briefly for a year during COVID, I ran Roll20. It worked fine. It's pain in the ass running online in general, but it's free. So there we go.
It is free if you use the basic stuff and you have, you're you have the time to like put the tokens in and stuff like that. Or if you have players that are like don't really give a shit about like seeing any tokens or anything like that, sure, yeah, I guess it's okay. But
I mean, the tokens were quick and easy. I was running the Icewind Dale, so I could see what monsters do I need, find some pictures online, make the tokens. It didn't take that long.
Roll20 is easier to get started with. Foundry is a better system, but it has a much steeper on ramp.
No, it doesn't. Not anymore,
Yes, it
because
does.
they actually nowadays they have the prepaid modules that you can buy that does all the setup work for you.
oh wait,
And
hold on a second.
But you
Basically
still have
do
to-
the
you
exact
still
same
have to
thing you do with
set up-
Roll20 then.
You
Got
still have to set up Foundry and get your stuff up, and
You know what?
allow people set up the ability for people to connect to your Foundry. It is still a
It's
setup.
even it is easier than setting up a Minecraft server. I can tell you that much.
No one's
like
talking about a Minecraft server.
I could probably figure out Foundry. I couldn't set up a Minecraft server. Just
Right.
saying.
I mean, I run it locally from my computer. They connect to the IP that Foundry gives me to give to the players. You open one port on your router. That's all the setup that it needs. I'm not hosting this in the cloud, that's always running on some kind of server base. It's only active when I have it on. Yes, you can do what you're thinking with, hosting it all up there, but you don't need to.
All right. Anyway,
All right, next question.
Yeah, my
Okay.
prep time varies from game to game. It's usually pretty quick. There we go.
You mostly run in person, right?
I only run in person.
These days.
Yeah, he only runs in person.
He's so cool, isn't he?
He's what I aspire to be.
Look, I've said it before. If I was having to run online or play online, I'm just going to play video games. I get just as much thrill, probably more. So.
Okay, so the next question was pretty vague. Homebrew, yes, no. And you and Dimitri rambled on for a while about it, but as far as like homebrew, yes, no, some dude showing up with some homebrew from a third party I've never even heard of, and it's like, dude, I've got to play this witch hunter class or whatever the bullshit they've pulled off of some 5e specialty website.
Time Wizard.
The answer is absolutely no. And in fact, I go one step further than that. Is I limit the books that you have access to options from. And I do that for all my games because I don't want to be surprised by somebody pulling out something that is completely broken or something I don't agree with, or I don't want a time wizard. I don't want what's the stupid spell from Strixhaven?
Silvery Barbs.
Silvery Barbs. I don't want silvery barbs. So homebrew, no. House rules, yeah. I mean, you mentioned some of the house rules that are very common, like in 5e before went on to 2024. That bonus action, use a potion. Yeah, but we adopted that too. There's a lot of common stuff like that. I used some house rules like there are like some options from the DMG, like you can't take a long rest when you're in danger out in the camping out in the wild. So until they learned basically Tensor's Lehman's Tiny Hut, they couldn't basically camp outside, so they have to go back to 10 towns every night if they're on a long rest. Things like that. But like, I don't really do homebrew as far as like characters, classes, and spells and stuff like that. Especially if a player's bringing it to the table, because if a player's bringing it to the table, I pretty much know that it's broken, because they wouldn't be bringing it to me otherwise. You can create. There are so many options to create a character. There's no reason that you need to bring homebrew.
I find just generally in my life that limiting the scope of something helps with creativity. I don't know if you guys share that same sentiment, but like, the whole idea where like necessity kind of forces you to be more creative with finding a solution.
Yeah, I mean, there's never been a character concept that somebody has come up with that any game system, doesn't matter which one it is, that you can't make something close enough that you can role play it the right way.
Right.
So I do when I run games, I the last few 5e games at least I've run, I do use some homebrew, but it's usually stuff that either I have found for a creator and I am putting it out there as an option. So I am limiting options as to what books you can use stuff from. And then the only homebrew you can use is the homebrew options that I present at, start of the game as, hey, these are things you can choose from for like a subclass, or you might, as the adventure goes on, I might throw out some homebrew spells that you can find.
Yeah, I find that much more fun. I did that with my wife with her drow warlock that she made, and gave her basically one of the high-end drow enemies, gave her like a spell that does one of their abilities. So again, I think necessity creates more fun than
Yeah, it'll never be some random someone goes on the internet and finds whatever homebrew they want to use and say, this is the character I've created. No, it's always going to be, here's the parameters that you can use to create characters, and it's always I never even use all the official set of stuff. It's always a subset of official stuff, plus a few select homebrews, stuff that I feel like fits the campaign that I'm running.
Yeah, and that's basically, I think, where most of us kind of land.
Yeah, we're kind of having two discussions here though, because there's the discussion that we're all in agreement with of, you can create some things as the game master, but you definitely will limit what your players can do to stuff that you approve. But then there's the idea of chomping down on and just only limiting them to these things is going to make for better characters and so forth. But D&D, or most tabletop role-playing games that we're into, are a mix of things. There's the role-playing aspect of things, and then there's the strategy game aspect of things. And you always have to sort of take that into regard. Role-playing wise, limitations will definitely give you probably better characters. You don't want to overdo the system to make a cool character role play, but at the same time, a lot of players like to have access to a crunchy system to build interesting strategy things that they can do with their characters. It's the reason that I regard Pathfinder 2nd edition as being so much better than 5th edition. Characters wise, role playing wise, it doesn't matter what the system is. But when it comes to the battle aspect of things, it matters a lot what the system is. So that's sort of my thoughts on it. I know it's kind of a tangent and two separate topics here, but
yeah. Anyway, that's. And then I think whenever Waples answered it with Dimitri, it was also a tangent with separate topics as well. But yeah, So I mean, we're in good company.
Are we gonna cover all of the questions? Like how many?
There's only seven.
Only seven. We're through two of them. We've been.
They get quicker. Don't worry.
We're 50 minutes into the podcast. There's other things to talk about tonight.
Good. Keep
not
going.
Really.
I mean, there's arcane subclasses still. So.
And the Scion. We got to talk about that.
Then there's the Shadow Dark and Necromancer class that Kelsey Dion sent out this weekend.
Ooh, yeah. Well, question.
Okay, question 3. How to convert or improve upon bad modules, and I think a young lady was asking you basically how to convert or make Strixhaven not suck, and I think you basically told her, well, look up something that actually was inspired by, not just Harry Potter, and base it in a school, and you can kind of just write your own thing. Don't do the module because the module sucks. I will concur with this because I tried to run Throne of Bloodstone, and as funny as it was, as fun as they had, I'm stopping because it is fucking dog shit. It is the worst module I think TSR ever put out. It is awful. And like no amount of hilarious cowboy attitudes from a fucking demigod is going to make it any better.
Hey, at the very least, you running it gave us an incredible podcast or two of just talking about that bullshit.
Yeah, but I mean, like, really, it's as if they wrote like an introduction module to like this grand idea they came up with, but then just couldn't think of anything else once you got past like this big bad lich you had to defeat. because basically they wrote a dungeon, and then it's like, and then you got to go to the abyss, and then you got to steal Orcus's rod, and then you got to go do. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ! Then you got to go bathe it in Tiamat's blood, and it's like, okay, this is just a kill 'em off adventure. This is a slog. So yeah, the short answer is, if a module seems so bad that you need help converting it, don't just write your own thing. It's really bad.
Yep.
Or just do what I generally do and write your own thing anyway.
Yeah,
Yep.
that too. I mean, take inspiration from things, but don't unless you're really short on time and you need just something that's ready made and available to run. Yeah, write your own thing.
Yeah,
I think another point I should have said too at that time was that I believe that a lot of the adventures that get added to books like that are just there to introduce you to the setting and to let you start going from there. Like, I'm still waiting for the Ouroboros campaign setting thing, which will never come out.
That's never coming,
because that world is so vast and so fucking crazy. I kind of need a starting point. I can't just like throw a dart at his map and go, okay, I'm going to start here with the fucking flying dwarves on the mesas.
Nope, I will wholly disagree with you. No matter what the setting, as long as you have the setting, you can find a starting point. Just pick a town, start there, and that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I don't need anyone else to write any adventure for me. I can, if I have a world or setting, even if I don't have a world, I can create my own worlds and settings. Fine. Like, I don't need your world. I don't need your adventure. I like to run cool adventures that, if you write something that I think is really neat or really fun, I'm happy to run stuff. But no, I don't need a starter adventure. Show me the world, and if the world is something enough that I take an interest in it, I can create my own stories.
Yeah, I think that's why you wind up with people running Ravenloft like it's fucking Scooby-Doo and not the horror setting that it is.
I mean, look, not every game master is going to be able to run every setting. You especially if you have newer game masters. Ravenloft is deep, it's in depth. There's a lot to there. Oh, and that's not just a module, that's a fucking campaign.
Yeah, it is.
Like, there's a lot.
Question 4.
Question 4. What other systems other than D&D would you recommend that people try? And I think we've already talked about a couple of them tonight from Free RPG Day.
Oh, we always do.
But also Shadowed Ark, Pyreporg, which we've talked about several times. Any other systems immediately you got spring to mind for you guys?
Dungeon Crawl Classics.
DCC. Okay.
I really want to try Dragonheart.
Dragonbane. I after having read it and through it, I would thoroughly recommend Dragonbane. It is a great system.
I want to try Dragonbane. I also want to try Daggerheart for sure.
I would suggest
we need all next week just to talk about Dragonheart or Dragonbane. I mean,
you're combining them two again.
I know.
One is a Sean Connery based movie, so
my favorite movie of all time too.
I'm sure.
I would suggest to everybody to try every system you can. Every system, every setting, play more games.
And honestly, that's the beautiful thing about going to conventions.
For a non-fantasy based thing, I will highly recommend Mothership. That was a blast to play.
Yeah. We had a real good time with that one.
And actually, Waples, you mentioned Mophidius earlier. Mophidius has a great list of games that they're UK based, so they're not as popular here, but they have licenses for a ton of great games. They have Terry Pratchett's Discworld,
which comes the Kickstarter's long done. My buddy Mike, who is the one who ran,
they got late pledges open right now, but still.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
They have John Carter of Mars.
By the way, it's Modiphius, not Mophidius.
Oh,
Mophidius.
Yeah,
I was repeating what Waple said.
I know.
It is Modiphius.
Dune,
Fallout, Star Trek. I've played John Carter of Mars and I've played Conan, and they both really got the feel of them right.
Yeah.
Like, it was one is sword and sandals and magic, and the other one is clearly like sci-fi and sword and sandals. So I mean, it had the feel. They did their research. They read the books clearly. There's a lot of silly stuff going on. It was very pulp. It played off very well. They also apparently have Dune.
Yeah, Dune Adventures in the Imperium, which I own a lot of. They had Star Trek Adventures.
He bought it as Energy.
Yeah, I bought it at Waple's store.
We got a copy of it still sitting there.
Blade Runner RPG, which I just picked up the starter kit during Free RPG Day. Coriolis, which is I've not. Yeah, well, I mean that's what's popping up on the Modifius website. So,
no,
is it a different company?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe Coriolis is Modifius, but I thought Blade Runner was Free League. I could be wrong.
No, they have their own for now for some reason.
That's interesting. Modifius has Dragonbane for sale on their website, though it is published by Free League.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if they're like a subsidiary.
Coriolis is a Free League game. So is Alien RPG, and so is Blade Runner.
Oh, okay. Well, they're on Modifius's website. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all I'm finding.
Both Free League and Modifius also sell third-party stuff as well. They act as publishers and resellers of other people's stuff too. So
the signature of Modifius's actual games, though, is definitely the 2D20 system.
Yeah, which is Dune.
Free League uses what they call their Year Zero engine.
Okay, that's the 2D12, or no, it's a D. That's right. It's a D6 through D12.
There's a different. So they actually, I looked at the SRD for it because they offer an SRD for it so that you can publish your own Year Zero games. Mm-hmm. And they have two forks of it now, with Blade Runner being their step die fork.
Yeah, that one. That because I read it a couple of weeks ago. It's really interesting. We'll talk about it later on another podcast.
Is a like a D6 dice pool system.
Okay.
Which is, I think, what Alien some of the stuff uses, because they introduced you could use a D6, but every once in a while when bad stuff happens, you throw in some D6s that are a different color that are, they still you still have bonuses, but when they come up, stuff happens.
Yeah,
you panic
and run away in terror.
I'm gonna die, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, I like what Jay said. Try new systems out. Find stuff that you like, and there's always cool mechanics that you can kind of bring into whatever tends to be your favorite or go-to game. Just expanding your breadth of experience will bring you a lot of cool stuff.
And
I still want to play the Renegade D20 system. I want to play my G.I. Joe Transformers. Power Rangers, My Little Pony.
I mean, be the change you want to see in the world. Why don't you run at your game store?
I've tried. No one's interested in running a Transformers or G.I. Joe or Power Rangers or My Little Pony game.
Chris, I can't play them. I'm not interested in playing one of those.
I'm not either.
Chris, I got you, man. If I'm there, I'll play in any of them except for My Little Ponies. But it's
all the same system.
Well, no, the system, once again, system isn't what matters. It's the setting. So you can run.
No. It's all the same setting.
You are the game master. You can say it's not.
All right. The next question is, this is kind of like what would happen if you won the lottery? Is what would you do if WotC gave you free reign to run basically if you became the CEO of WotC or Hasbro or whatever.
Oh man.
And basically could do whatever you wanted to do. And of course this one rambled on for quite some time. And honestly, I don't think it's a great question. That's
I don't care.
That's a wish list, which is also interesting because it dives into the next one, which is if you were to create a new D&D setting that was going to be official WotC, what would be the wish list? And it can't be something that is just a rehash of something that already existed.
Well, so if you were able to make your own setting,
basically make and publish your own setting, and what would make it different than just generic ass fantasy setting?
I can't talk about it. I'm writing it.
Oh, there you go. And I think you guys mentioned essentially, WotC doesn't have like a Wild West thing, and it was pointed out. Well, there's a bunch of other systems that already do that better. So,
Boot Hill.
You don't. Boot Hill. I was going to say Deadlands.
Aces and Eights. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, and So yeah, there's better systems already. But as far as a wish list goes, I don't need D&D to publish an official, whatever setting.
No.
There's a lot of there's so many settings out there. Make your own.
Yeah. If we were able to publish a setting that had existed previously, that then falls back to the previous question of what would you do if you had free reign? Because
Right.
if I was going to have them make Dark Sun again, I have to be the one in control. That way they don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Or whoever the original writer was.
Yeah, that'd be fine. That'd be fine too.
But the last one was actually an interesting question. What is the hardest thing you had to DM? And it was kind of open as far as difficult encounter, dealing with difficult players. It was kind of open because Dimitri talked about difficult players, or maybe it was a difficult DM who's just I guess packed up his shit and left or something like that because he didn't understand I don't know how to just
I mean, we all did have a game at GaryCon, but we don't talk about that. So
we don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the hardest. I mean, I don't know. Waples, what's the hardest thing that you had to DM? Was it the troll thing that you talked about with Dimitri?
So the troll thing, I don't know if I ever talked about that on this podcast. Maybe I did when it happened.
I'd never heard it.
So in 4th edition, there was a book that came out called The Monsters of Nintir Vale, which is the setting for 4th edition, the Points of Light setting. And there's 2 trolls who are fairly bigger brutes. Take a troll and pull up its CR a little bit and just hit it a little bit harder, have more points. But the key thing for them is that they had some kind of magic happen to them when they were born, such that they can't die unless they're within 5 feet of each other. All right. So I saw these trolls. They're called the Burley Brothers. I love these trolls. I've always wanted to run them in a setting. I never could do it because it just had the right place to kind of put it in. But while my players were kind of running through Waterdeep and traveling outside, I was like, you know what? This would be a nice just rodent camp. Some random trolls there. Throw them a little bit of a twist. These trolls can't seem to die somehow. And they can just clean their clocks and, drag their bodies together and call it a day. And be none worse for wear. And that turned into the most godslog, hardest encounter, most depressing thing ever. And I tried throwing hints at them, okay, you see this wisp kind of going over to the other guy's body, and they're like, okay, whatever, I'll ignore that and just continue fighting the other troll on different sides of the map. They split them up, and that was their solution. And Dimitri hates it. He hated the whole encounter. We can't have all of our stuff be perfect, but that was a low point, I guess, in his memories of games for me. I've had a lot of players be mean. I've had a lot of players quit. Those are always issues. I had a player quit Adventures League this week, one of the really good players, because eventually just isn't jiving with him. And I totally understand, but that breaks my heart, Yeah. Luckily I'm playing an in-person game with him soon, so
as long as you keep it in contact,
Yeah. So that's kind of where my mind goes. A very specific thing, it's the Grumpy Dungeon Master podcast. Just go back through my material, man. Just throw it hard at the wall.
It's 4+ years of just misery.
Every time I run Adventures League and some fucker decides I'm going to eat the defected cow. Jesus. Really? Okay, great. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say that the hardest thing to be a DM for is when there's interpersonal issues in a game that either breaks up the group, or breaks friendships up. Like that. I've had that happen before, and I'm still upset about it because I'm just trying to be an intermediary of like, okay, so how do we solve this? Like clearly, like we're playing D&D. We're not playing World of Darkness where like PvP is a thing. Like, but somehow PvP has begun, and like people are getting pissed, and they think that one person's getting mad at the other person. I'm just like, dude, just play the game. We'll solve it. It'll be fine. And then suddenly, like, people aren't friends anymore. That is the hardest thing for me. And it's only happened, I think, a couple of times in all the years I've DM'd, but it still kind of hurts.
I was a player in a game where I PvP'd someone and the game never happened again, but I was the player, so that was great for me. I ended that campaign the way I wanted to.
So, like, in earlier editions of D&D, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but like, at least in like 3rd edition, in Pathfinder 1, like PvP was a thing that felt at least somewhat fair and balanced. If you piss somebody off for good reason, and like you guys start throwing down and your character gets killed, like, okay, well, at least it was a fair fight and everything. Like in 5e, it doesn't really feel like that, and certainly in 4e, even like setting up an encounter where you're fighting an NPC bad guy party, if you try to give them player stats, it's weird. It does not play well. But like in 3rd edition, Pathfinder, fuck, fight NPC parties or fight to get to the thing at the end of the dungeon or something like that. That's fine. That's awesome. It never felt right for me with 5e. It just, especially not with. I mean, I've looked at the stats and how 4e works. So like, it's built like a board game, so of course it's not going to work. And I think that's they intended for that. But 5e is really just a group. It's a teamwork game for the most part.
Yeah, I've done PvP a number of times in 5e as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I mean, the character that died at Ravenloft a few weeks back, that was a PvP situation. It was the guy, the other player was playing a barbarian who was possessed, but it was a couple of characters duking it out.
Yeah.
There was no chance in hell I could have 1v1 to the barbarian as a rogue. Not happening. And
that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, they're in 5e, like a rogue. I guess maybe if you're using like Tasha's, and you have the thing where you can like you burn your bonus action in order to gain advantage. Maybe you can do it. Maybe.
No, because he was the barbarian that fucking just always half damage all the time. Just way too many fucking hit points. There's no chance in hell I could have killed him.
Right.
But I don't know that that's necessarily a 5e thing, because I've done PvP in 3rd edition. I've done PvP in 2nd edition, and we've done it at LARP enough fucking times over the years that still all sort of translates. Every PvP encounter is situationally based.
Yeah. If everyone seems cool with it, it's a fine thing. If it's not, then people are going to have emotions, and people get tied to their characters. They don't want to lose their character.
Yeah, right? I've been very, very fortunate in my life that when it comes to PvP, I don't, at least within tabletop role-playing games. LARPing's another matter, but tabletop role-playing games, I've never had another person get mad about it.
Oh my God, Christian and I have during a PvP scenario, and it was a PvP scenario in which, like, everyone knew it was a PvP scenario going into it. It was literally at DragonCon like 10 years ago.
You've told the story. Yeah.
The guy looked like he was in a fight, Christian. Like
he was real mad.
I don't even what do you hit him with? Like dust of sneezing and choking?
We dumped dust of sneezing and choking on them.
Now this is not a person getting mad about PvP. This is a person who is mad that his unbeatable twinked out character lost when he couldn't lose.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
And that's that gets away from the question entirely. It's just
yeah.
PvP isn't necessarily, but like, yeah, that would be my hardest thing to DM for is
PvP's
being broken up because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. PvP in role-playing games can be a touchy subject. It has to be the right players. I mean, same deal. We've LARPed, all of us, for many, many years, and some people are great for PvP and other people mentally cannot handle it.
I think it also kind of it factors in whether or not there's some baseline expectation of it. Like if you're playing in a type of game where it's not really expected and then it happens, then people can get upset a little more easily.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. But
if you know it's always a possibility, some people will still be upset, but at least like if there's that kind of ground, establishment of like, hey, this could happen in this campaign or in this game. This is a possible thing that's on the table. You have that kind of sitting there.
But some people just cannot handle it. I currently have a guy that we play with. Good player. He's fun to play with when everything's running smoothly. But the moment one thing goes poorly for his character, it's an immediate mental turn. And we see it regularly. So if one of his players dies, it's a serious mental turn. And a PvP situation, we just don't ever put him in those because we know what that's going to do to him when his character dies.
Y'all want to make Steve cry?
Literally, he would end up probably just walking outside and disappearing for 20 minutes to get his head on straight is what would happen. So some people just can't handle conflict. They just can't.
And here I am thinking back how many times I sat at the DM side of the table with two players having a conflict. I'm like, kill him.
Yep.
No.
Different people.
Yeah, everybody is different. Find the games that work for you. If you don't like PvP, then find a group that does not ever consider it.
Make the games work for you, not you work for the games.
The four of us here on this podcast, we're not above PvPing other people if it's necessary. So,
oddly enough, like I've hardly ever PvP'd in the LARP. Like, I think I can count on one hand. Like, it just doesn't happen. No one wants to fuck with me. I don't know why.
I'm pretty confident me and Dan have just lost track of how many other characters we've killed at LARP. So
yeah, you fuckers.
Some people deserve it.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
That was the last question, actually.
Oh, the last question was the.
We just went on a tangent. We lost whatever we were talking about.
No, there was a question from the lady about whether she wanted me to convince her that D&D...
Oh, yeah. The lady who was all into World of Darkness asked you to convince her that D&D isn't just a combat simulator. Your answer was, I'm not going to convince you, it is.
Yeah.
Easy's answer.
Yep.
I think it was pretty clear that it was that's bait. That question is bait. It was never a real I want to be convinced. It was I want to argue about why the game I like is better than your game.
Yeah. And I think Waples, you responded to it appropriately.
Yeah.
Comes back to that thing I said earlier. The system doesn't matter if you just want to role play. You can role play in a D&D game. I've played in many of them where we would go for several sessions without a single combat. So
that would kill me.
Oh no, it can be fun if you're playing.
Yeah,
you got a good group and you guys are investigating or going stuff. Yeah,
we had a lot going on. We didn't have to fight anything. We were investigating and doing other shit.
Yeah.
I would say that the Star Wars game that I did was the only one where I actually enjoyed not having a combat session go by. That's just because the guys were the right people to hang out with. But
it's all about the group you're playing with.
Yeah, the well beyond the Witchlight, I think I really want to sit down and play through that and see if I could actually play through that without having any combat encounters. Like as a player, I want to play through that. As a DM, I do not want to do that. I do not want that at all. I want to fight the fairies with you, but I think that'd be interesting to kind of go through.
All right. So that's all those questions. I think we're almost at the end here. I got one last thing I wanted to briefly go over before we wrap this thing up. Christian, we'll do Dragonbane next weekend. We'll make it all. We'll make it all about Dragonbane.
The latest UA for 2024.
Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about. So Kelsey Dion or the Shadow Dark sent out a email this week that has the Necromancer playtest on it. And I guess it was a month. It was like shortly after Gary Con, she streamed and made the Necromancer class during the stream. And she's done this a few times. I'm not going to go over the entirety of it by any means, although it's Shadow Dark, so it's not like there's a hell of a lot. But it's got the full spell list up through tier 5 and everything. The main thing I wanted to kind of talk about on here is she also sent out with that the Plane of Death, which is information about how death and necromancy works in her game. I don't know which one of you have ever read any of his novels, but this is the Plane of Death in her version is almost a direct take from Garth Nix's Sabriel novels or the Old Kingdom.
She said that during her design stream when she was doing the Necromancer.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the stream. So
her whole inspiration for that, she loves the Sabriel stories and the Garth Nix novels, and so she said those would be like one of the highlights of if she had to write her own, like what her appendix N is for Shadow Dark.
Yeah,
those are something. And so her whole idea of the Necromancer is more of a priest and very much based off of Sabriel and the Garth Nix books.
Yeah, which if you have not read it, is a fantastic series of books. They tend to be a lot of one-offs too. Like there's only 6 books in total, and I've only read the first 3, maybe 4. But yeah, like they do kind of carry on to the next book, but you don't have to read them all. But yeah, it's really interesting take on how death and necromancy works with the different gates and all the spirits trying to get through each gate. And sometimes they don't go through the gates. Sometimes they come back, and that's when they're undead.
Yeah. So yeah, it is an interesting class, and yeah, that's definitely where it comes from, is taking it on from those novels, and that is the kind of the take that she said she wanted, that inspired her.
Well, if we ever get her on here, then we'll have to talk to her about that too. So, because I am also a fan of those books.
Yeah, those are on my list to pick up one of them and read. Through.
Yeah, just start with the first one. They're teenager books, so they're pretty easy reads. You'll enjoy them. All right. Anybody have any last words before we leave?
Word.
Bye, Craig.
Phoenix down.